The ballroom smells like roses and expensive champagne, but my throat tastes like metal. My tongue keeps pressing my back teeth like it can hide there. He's at the altar, straight-backed, glowing, smiling like he didn't sign my life away with one lazy stroke of a pen. The band is mid-song when the sound snaps off. Not a fade, a cut. Heads turn. A hush swallows everything. The projector flickers. His perfect slideshow blinks out. Love, laughter, lies, gone. My phone vibrates once. A single line on the screen. All linked accounts frozen. He leans toward his bride, voice too small for his suit. This can't be happening. Her smile cracks, just a hairline fracture, but I see it. I step into the aisle and my heartbeat becomes a drum in my ears. You wanted to leave me with nothing. Fine, I'll teach you what nothing feels like. I don't look like the kind of woman who makes storms. I'm the one people pass in grocery aisles. Hair tied back, nails short, a faint stain on my hoodie from someone else's breakfast. I'm a young mom with a schedule stitched together by school drop-offs, cheap coffee, and the kind of tired that lives under your eyes no matter how early you sleep. But inside, my ribs are a locked cage with something feral pacing. His name is Adrian, my ex-husband. The man who could light up a room with that practiced smile, warm hands, perfect eye contact, then turn around at home and tighten his control like a belt. Quiet rules, quiet punishments. The kind that left no bruises, just a constant knot in my stomach that I started calling normal. And her, Serena, the fiancée, the glossy hair, the jeweled laugh, the way she looks at people like they're furniture in a house she plans to buy. She's hungry for status, not clueless, not innocent, just careful. Then there's me, the boring wife, the simple one, the one with the boring job that kept the lights on when he played king, the one who listened more than she spoke, the one who learned what numbers mean when they are tied to power. And the only reason my hands aren't shaking right now, Mara, my family's old accountant, not soft, not loud, just precise, the kind of woman who can read a contract like it's a confession. This isn't a story about me losing everything. It's a story about betrayal, a divorce that was never meant to be fair, and a revenge plan that doesn't break laws, just the illusion that he owned me and everything around me. If you've ever been underestimated, stay with me and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Because those divorce papers, they weren't the ending, they were the trigger. It didn't start with shouting. That's what people don't understand. They imagine betrayal as a door slam, a lipstick stain, a screaming match in a driveway. But mine began like steam on a bathroom mirror, soft, harmless looking, and everywhere before I realized I couldn't see through it. Adrian used to bring me coffee in bed, not every day, just often enough that I started calling him thoughtful. He'd brush my hair behind my ear like I was fragile glass, then grin and say, "I don't know what I did to deserve you." And I would feel my cheeks warm, my chest loosen, and that stupid, sweet part of me would believe the words like they were a promise. Then the little corrections started. "Babe, you don't have to work so hard. You're already doing so much at home. Let me handle that. You're too stressed. I'll take care of the bills. You focus on the baby." Each sentence landed like a kiss on my forehead. Gentle, protective, like love. But love isn't supposed to make you smaller. When our son was born, my world shrank to the size of a crib and a diaper pail. My days were measured in ounces and naps and the exact pitch of his cry. I learned the difference between hungry and tired and that awful one that meant his stomach hurt and nothing I did could fix it. I learned how to carry him with one arm while stirring a pot with the other. I learned how to smile at the pediatrician when I hadn't slept more than 90 minutes in a row for a week. And Adrian grew. His suits got sharper, his haircuts more frequent, his laugh louder around other people. He started calling me from sleek lobbies where the air sounded expensive. I could always hear it, the hush of carpet, the clink of glasses, the low hum of men talking like they own the room. "Big night," he'd say, voice silky. "Networking. You know how it is." I'd be sitting on the kitchen floor with our son in my lap, dried oatmeal on my shirt, my phone pressed to my ear while my wrist ached from bouncing the baby. "Yeah," I'd whisper. "Of course." Because he trained me to say of course. He trained me to feel lucky. Lucky he still wanted me after pregnancy softened my stomach. Lucky he allowed me to keep my small job, the one he called a hobby even though it paid for groceries sometimes. Lucky he helped with the baby by holding him for 10 minutes and expecting applause. If I asked for more time, more honesty, more partnership, his face would change. Not angry, not loud, just blank, like I'd spoken a language he refused to understand. "You're overthinking," he'd say. "You always do this." Always do this. Like wanting to be treated like a person was a flaw I carried. I remember one night our son had been teething for days. His gums were swollen, his cheeks feverish, his little fists rubbing his eyes until his lashes stuck together. I'd been walking the hallway with him at 3 a.m, my bare feet slapping the floor, my arms burning from holding his weight, my back screaming for rest. Adrian rolled over, face buried in the pillow. "Can you?" I started, my voice cracking. He didn't even open his eyes. "I have a meeting tomorrow." Something cold crawled up my spine. Not rage yet, not grief, just a slow understanding that my exhaustion was invisible to him, like it didn't count because it didn't come with a title or a paycheck. The next morning he left early, smelling like his cologne and mint. He kissed the top of our son's head and said, "Daddy's got to go make money for us, champ." For us. The words were sweet on the surface, but underneath they dug in like hooks, because the money became his language, his weapon, his proof. He took over everything financial with a smile that said, "This is love." He set up what he called our dashboard. One place, he explained, tapping his phone screen like a magician showing a trick. One dashboard for finances, streamlined, transparent, easy. I was so tired I could have cried at the thought of easy. "See," he said, scrolling fast. "Bills, savings, investment stuff. You don't have to worry about it." I nodded, eyes burning, brain fogged from sleep deprivation. I didn't question why he never gave me the passwords. I didn't ask why the dashboard was always something he held, something he controlled, something he showed me, only when he wanted to. If I asked for access, he'd laugh like it was cute. "Babe," he'd say, smoothing my shoulder, "you hate that stuff." And I did. Not because I hated numbers, because I hated how he made me feel when I asked, like a child tugging an adult's sleeve, so he handled accounts. I handled life, the grocery list, the pediatrician appointments, the daycare forms, the laundry that never ended, the birthdays, the thank you notes, the parent-teacher emails once our son got older, the meal planning, and the tiny socks that disappeared like magic. He handled money with an air of importance, like it was oxygen, like he was the one providing it, like I should be grateful for every breath. And in the beginning, I was. I told myself this was marriage, division of labor, partnership. I didn't see the fog. I breathed it in. Then the breadcrumbs started. Small at first, almost laughable, a receipt in his pocket for a restaurant we never went to. 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, a dessert. I stared at it in the laundry room with a damp shirt in my hand, the washer churning behind me like distant thunder. My heart didn't jump right away. It hesitated, like it didn't want to know. Maybe it was a work dinner. Maybe he took a client. Maybe he paid for someone else. I folded the receipt and put it back, my fingers shaking so slightly I tried to pretend it was just the cold. Then, a hotel charge. Not in our city, not on a weekend he told me about. I saw it in a notification on his phone when he left it on the counter, and it lit up like a guilty mouth. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grip the edge of the counter. My palms went sweaty, my tongue went dry. When he came back into the kitchen, I made my face smooth. I asked, casual, "Hey, you travel next month?" He blinked, then smiled. "Probably. Why?" "No reason." Because the moment I pushed, he'd call me paranoid. He'd twist it into proof that I was unstable, needy, dramatic. So I swallowed it. I swallowed everything for months. There were late-night meetings that always ran long. He'd come home with his tie loosened, eyes bright, lips too relaxed. He'd brush past me and go straight to the shower like he needed to wash something off. The water would run and run while I stood in the hallway with a dish towel in my hands, listening, heart beating too hard. Then the scent. Not his cologne. Something sweeter, something floral, sharp at the edges. It clung to the collar of his shirt like a fingerprint. I told myself it was a coworker, a crowded elevator, a handshake that lasted too long. But my body knew before my mind did. My skin prickled, my throat tightened. My sleep turned shallow and full of sudden waking, my chest squeezing like a fist had wrapped around it. Then came the work trip that didn't match his calendar. He'd always been careless about little things because he believed I wasn't watching. He believed I was too busy with school lunches and bedtime stories to notice. He'd left a printed itinerary on his desk once, flight times, hotel address, a conference schedule. Later, he told me he was going somewhere else, different hotel, different city. When I asked lightly, "Did they change your trip?" he looked at me like I'd stepped on his toe. "What?" he said, tone sharp enough to make me flinch. "The itinerary," I murmured. "It said," he cut me off with a laugh that wasn't laughter. "You're digging through my stuff now?" My cheeks burned. My stomach clenched. I felt suddenly dirty, like I'd done something wrong. "I wasn't digging," I said, voice small. "It was just there." He stared at me for a beat, then exhaled like he was the tired one. "God," he muttered. "This is why I don't tell you things. You make everything a problem." He kissed my forehead, hard, not tender. A stamp. "Relax," he said. "I'm doing this for our family." For our family. The fog thickened, and then, one night, it tore open. Not with a confession, not with a phone call, with laughter, a woman's laugh. It hit my ears first, bright and effortless, like a champagne bubble popping. I was sitting at a small restaurant near the mall, waiting for a friend who was late. The air smelled like garlic and warm bread. My glass of iced water sweated onto a napkin, and I watched the condensation slide down like slow tears. That laugh again, close, too close. My fingers tightened around the glass so hard the ice clinked, a sharp little sound that made my shoulders jump. I didn't want to turn my head. I did anyway. I saw him before I saw her. Adrian. In a dark jacket, leaning forward, smiling. Not his public smile, his real smile. The one he hadn't given me in months. Then I saw her, Serena, long hair that looked professionally done, lip gloss that caught the light, a hand on his forearm like she belonged there, like she had always belonged there. My stomach rolled. Bile rose in my throat so fast I had to swallow hard, my mouth flooding with that bitter, metallic taste. My vision narrowed until the whole restaurant felt like a tunnel. I kept my face still. I didn't scream. I didn't stand up. I just sat there, frozen, while my heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted out. Under the table, my hands trembled. Not delicate trembling, violent, humiliating shaking. I pressed my palms against my thighs, trying to pin them down, trying to control my own body. He reached across the table and brushed a crumb from her lip with his thumb. I felt something inside me snap. Not loud, not dramatic, just a clean break, like a thread finally tearing after being pulled too tight for too long. My friend arrived 5 minutes later and found me staring at nothing, my water untouched, my face too pale. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. My voice didn't work. That night, when Adrian walked in the door, I could smell her perfume on him like smoke. He hung his coat like nothing happened. He kissed our son goodnight. He stepped into the kitchen and opened the fridge. "What's for dinner?" he asked. Something in me went quiet, dead quiet. I watched him take out the leftovers I'd made, like my labor was a service he expected without thought. "Who is she?" I asked. The words came out calm, too calm, like they belonged to someone else. He paused with the container in his hands, blinked, then gave me a look of pure annoyance. "What are you talking about?" I felt my nails press into my palms. "The woman you were with tonight." He stared at me for a second, then scoffed. "You followed me?" "I was there," I said, voice shaking now despite my effort. "I saw you." His mouth tightened. He set the container down, slow, controlled, like he was handling something fragile that might shatter, except the fragile thing was me, and he didn't care if I broke. "You're imagining things," he said. "You've been stressed. You're always stressed." My chest burned. My eyes stung. "I saw your hand on her. "Stop," he snapped, and the sharpness made me flinch again. "Stop acting like this." "Like what?" I whispered. "Paranoid," he said, spitting the word like it tasted bad. "Obsessive. You need help." There it was, the gaslight bright and clean. He watched me wobble under it like he'd done this before, like he knew exactly where to hit. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Tell me the truth." He leaned against the counter, arms crossing, expression going cold. The charm drained out of him like someone pulled a plug. "You want the truth?" he said softly. I nodded. He looked me up and down, slow, like he was measuring how much damage he could do. "The truth," he said, "is you wouldn't even know what to do with it." My throat tightened. He stepped closer, his voice lowered, dangerous and intimate. "You don't even know how the money works." The words branded my brain. I felt heat rush to my face, then drain out of me, leaving me cold. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt, like my body was trying to fold in on itself, trying to disappear. He saw my reaction and smiled. Small, satisfied. "That's why you're scared," he continued. "That's why you cling. Because without me, you're lost." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, but I had our son sleeping down the hall, small and warm and innocent, and I couldn't become chaos. Not for his sake. So I did something else. I went still. I stared at Adrian and felt something settle inside me. A weight. A decision. "I want a divorce," I heard myself say. His eyes widened, just a flicker. Then he recovered quickly. "Fine," he said, voice sharp with triumph. "Finally, you're doing me a favor." He turned away like I didn't matter, like I'd just handed him the keys to freedom. And I stood there, in my kitchen, my heart pounding, my hands cold, realizing he didn't think I could survive this. He didn't know I had already started. 2 days later, I sat in a quiet office that smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. My friend had given me the name. "She's good," she'd said. "She doesn't play." The attorney, Evelyn, didn't waste time on sympathy. She looked at me like I was capable, like I wasn't broken, and that alone made my throat tighten. "What do you want?" she asked. I opened my mouth, and for a second all I wanted was to say, "I want to stop hurting." Instead, I said, "I want to be safe, and I want my son to be safe." Evelyn nodded once. Then we talked facts. She asked questions, precise ones, accounts, titles, policies, trusts, corporate structures. I kept blinking, trying to drag memories out of the fog. I told her what I knew, what Adrian told me, what he didn't. She listened without reacting, then leaned back and folded her hands. "Most people confuse income with ownership," she said. The words landed heavy. My stomach twisted again, not from fear this time, from recognition. "Adrian has income," she continued, "but we need to find out what the structure is, who actually controls what, who has authority, who has signatures." My pulse thudded in my throat. She slid a legal pad toward herself and wrote something down. Then she looked up at me, eyes sharp. "Tell me," she said quietly, "whose name is actually on the trust and the holding accounts?" Evelyn's question sat between us like a loaded object. Whose name? Trust. Holding accounts. Words I'd heard in passing like background noise, like adult language spoken over my head at family dinners. My father used to talk about structures the way other people talked about weather. Predictable, necessary, always there. I'd tuned it out back then. I'd been young, in love, certain I'd never need armor. Now my palms were slick against the armrests of the chair, and my mouth felt too dry to form anything but a rasp. I don't know, I admitted. The shame came fast, hot and sharp. My face prickled, my stomach hollowed as if my body was preparing for impact. Evelyn didn't flinch. She just nodded once like that answer was a starting point, not a failure. "Good," she said. "Then we find out." I left her office with my legs buzzing, like I'd been sitting too long on a cold floor. Outside, sunlight hit me too bright. Cars moved, people laughed into phones, a woman walked a small dog in a sweater. The world kept being normal while mine cracked open like a cheap mug dropped onto tile. 2 days later, Adrian ambushed me. not in person. He didn't have the courage for that. It came in an envelope, thick and official, shoved into my mailbox like a punishment. I was holding a stack of school flyers and my son's half-finished art project, construction paper and glitter glued into the shape of a sun, when I saw my name printed in bold, cold letters. My fingers went numb. I tore it open right there on the porch. Paper sliced my thumb and a bead of blood surfaced, bright as a warning. Divorce petition. Filed by him. Filed first. The words swam for a second, then snapped into focus with cruel clarity. He was claiming I was emotionally unstable. He was requesting expedited mediation. He was asking for primary decision-making authority for our child. My breath got stuck. A low, animal sound tried to rise out of my chest, and I swallowed it down so hard it hurt. Unstable. I could taste bile again, bitter and metallic, like my body had memorized the flavor of betrayal. Inside, my son was humming to himself, pushing toy cars along the living room rug. I could hear the tiny plastic wheels clicking over a seam. My hand shook as I flipped pages. Adrian wanted minimal support. Barely enough to buy groceries, certainly not enough to live. He wanted the house. He wanted the car. He wanted control of all marital accounts as if they were naturally his. Like I was a guest in my own life. My vision narrowed until all I could see was black ink on white paper, the shape of my erasure. I pressed the heel of my hand to my mouth. The skin there tasted salty from sweat. My heart didn't beat like a drum anymore. It beat like a fist. That night, he texted me like we were discussing a dentist appointment. Adrian, you got the papers. Let's keep this civil. Civil. My fingers hovered over the screen. I wanted to write 1,000 things. I wanted to vomit my anger into the blue bubble and watch it stain his phone. Instead, I wrote, me. I'll speak through my attorney. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, like he was deciding which version of himself to send. Adrian, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stared at that sentence until my eyes burned. Harder, as if I was the one who made it this way. I didn't cry that night. My body tried. I felt it building behind my eyes, hot and pressurized, but something else was stronger. A cold, steady rage that sat in my stomach like a stone. The next morning, he posted photos. Fresh start. That's what the caption said. A shot of him in sunglasses in front of some hotel lobby mirror, suit crisp, jaw angled just so. Like a man stepping into freedom. Like a man who hadn't just torn a family apart. The likes came fast. Hearts, fire emojis, comments from mutual friends that made my throat tighten with disgust. So proud of you. New chapter. You deserve happiness. I scrolled until my fingertips went numb, each swipe like dragging my skin over sandpaper. Then I stopped. I set the phone down on the counter so carefully it was almost tender. My reflection in the dark screen looked pale, older. My lips pressed into a line that didn't belong to the woman I used to be. At drop-off, the humiliation became physical. Parents I'd smiled at for years suddenly avoided my eyes. Conversations paused when I approached. A woman I'd once shared snack duty with shifted her body slightly away from me, like heartbreak was contagious. One man offered a tight smile and said, "Hey, hope everything's okay," in that tone people use when they don't want details but want to feel like they're kind. My cheeks burned. I wanted to shout, "It's not okay, it's not okay," he lied, he cheated, he's trying to take my child. But my son's hand was in mine. Warm, trusting. So I swallowed the words like glass and kept walking. Then Serena stepped into my life. Of course she did. It was a Friday, one of those school events where the gym smells like floor polish and sugar because someone always brings cupcakes. Kids' laughter ricocheted off the walls. Folding chairs scraped. A teacher's microphone squealed with feedback. I was holding a paper plate with my son's name written in marker on it, waiting in line for face painting when I heard that laugh again. Bright. Effortless. My shoulders went rigid before I even turned. There she was, Serena in a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Hair glossy, lipstick perfect. She stood beside Adrian like she'd always belonged at our child's school, like she'd earned the right to be there. My throat tightened so hard it felt like I was being strangled from the inside. Adrian saw me and his expression shifted, just a flicker of satisfaction, like he'd planned this moment. Serena stepped forward first. "Hi," she said, voice smooth. "It's so nice to finally meet you." Her perfume hit me, sweet and sharp, like flowers cut too close to the stem. It filled my nose, made my stomach roll. I forced my face to stay neutral. "Serena," I said, because I refused to pretend I didn't know her name. She blinked, smile staying in place. "Oh, right, of course." Then she tilted her head and said, "Ariana, right?" Ariana, not my name. My fingers tightened around the edge of the paper plate until it bent, the cheap cardboard creasing under pressure. I felt heat rise up my neck. My ears rang. She was doing it on purpose. She wanted me to correct her. She wanted me to look petty. She wanted me to look unstable. Behind her, Adrian watched, silent, enjoying the setup like it was a game. I inhaled slowly. The air tasted like frosting and disinfectant. "It's Mara," I said evenly, my voice low. "You know that." Serena's smile widened, just a fraction too bright. Right, Mara, sorry." Her eyes slid to my son. "He's adorable. Adrian talks about him constantly." My stomach dropped again. Adrian talks about him. As if I wasn't the one packing his lunches, brushing his teeth, kissing his forehead at night when his eyelids fluttered heavy. As if my child was a story Adrian told to make himself look good. My son tugged my sleeve. "Mom, can I get the tiger?" His voice grounded me, pulled me back from the cliff edge. "Yeah, baby," I whispered, stroking his hair. My hand trembled slightly, but he didn't notice. Serena leaned closer, voice soft like a secret. "I hope we can all be mature about this. For him." Mature? The word slid under my skin like a needle. I could feel my pulse in my wrists, in my throat. My mouth tasted metallic again. I looked at Adrian. He met my eyes and didn't even pretend remorse. He wanted me to break. He wanted me to lose it in public so his unstable claim would become truth. So I smiled. Not warm, not friendly, just the kind of smile you give a stranger when you're done. "Enjoy the event," I said. Then I turned my body away from them, pivoting toward my son like he was the only real thing in that gym. My legs felt heavy, but I walked. I didn't run. When I got home, I went into the bathroom and locked the door. The mirror showed my face flushed, eyes too bright. My hands were shaking, hard now. I turned on the faucet, cold water rushing, and gripped the sink so tightly my knuckles whitened. I stared at myself. Then I started to cry. Silent, controlled tears that slid down my cheeks and dripped off my chin. My shoulders shook once, twice. My throat hurt with all the sound I refused to make, and then it stopped. Not because the pain was gone, because something inside me changed. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. The skin felt raw. My eyes felt swollen. I opened a drawer, pulled out a notebook, and set it on the counter. The pages smelled like paper and possibility. I wrote the date. I wrote what Serena said, what Adrian did, where they stood, who saw. My handwriting was messy at first, angry loops and sharp lines, but as I kept writing, it steadied. It became cleaner, colder. I stopped crying in the shower. I started documenting. Evelyn's voice echoed in my head. Facts. So I collected them like weapons I didn't have to swing. Just hold. Days blurred into a rhythm of legal emails and school schedules. Adrian pushed for mediation fast, like he could outrun the truth. His attorney sent offers that felt like insults wrapped in formal language. Minimal support, limited visitation for me if I could not maintain stability. Full control for him. Every time I read the proposals, my stomach clenched and my scalp tingled with rage. He wasn't just leaving me. He was trying to rewrite me as the villain so he could walk away clean. One night, I was digging through a drawer looking for my son's birth certificate for school paperwork when my fingers hit an envelope I didn't recognize. Thick, cream-colored, my father's old handwriting on the front. My breath caught. It was one of those moments where the air shifts, where the room feels suddenly too quiet. The fridge hummed, a car passed outside. Somewhere a neighbor's dog barked once. My hands went cold as I slid the envelope open. Inside, a legacy document, not a will, not exactly, something like a letter of instruction, names, structures, references to accounts layered like nesting dolls. Trust, holding entity, administrator. I felt my pulse spike. I read it once, twice, 3 times, my eyes darting over the lines like I was searching for a door in a burning house. And there, my name. Not Adrian's, mine. My stomach dropped, but this time it wasn't fear, it was recognition, like finding the missing piece to a puzzle that had been tormenting me in the dark. My life didn't depend on Adrian's money. Adrian's life depended on access, permissions, authority. I sat down hard on the edge of the couch, the paper shaking in my hands. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. My mouth went dry. The room smelled like laundry detergent and the faint vanilla of my son's shampoo. I stared at my name on that document until my vision blurred. Then, I laughed once. Small, disbelieving, sharp. It sounded wrong coming out of me. Evelyn came over the next day. She sat at my kitchen table reading the document with a calm so steady it made me feel less like I was falling. "This," she said, tapping the page, "is your pressure point." My fingers curled around my coffee mug. The ceramic was warm, but my hands were still cold. "You can't take what you don't own," she continued. "He's been living on permissions, cards, authorized transfers, corporate lines that look personal because he made them look personal." I swallowed hard. "So what do I do?" Evelyn's eyes pinned mine. "We don't do illegal," she said, voice firm. "We do airtight." The words landed like a vow. She explained options, clean ones, lawful ones, a freeze triggered by authority already assigned to me, trust administration, co-signer rights, governance clauses that allowed access changes upon certain events. My skin tingled as if electricity was crawling under it. "Timing matters," Evelyn said. "We move only when we can justify it, only when it's defensible." I nodded slowly, my throat tight. Part of me wanted to pull the trigger immediately, just to watch him scramble, to watch him feel what I'd felt, powerless, small, dismissed. But another part of me, stronger now, wanted it to be perfect, not messy, not emotional, airtight. Then, as if the universe was handing me the stage, Adrian posted again, a photo of an engagement ring on Serena's hand. Her nails manicured, glittering under restaurant lighting. Caption, "Can't wait to start forever." My stomach turned over. The comments exploded. "So happy for you. Finally! True love wins. True love." I stared at the screen until my eyes stung, then I scrolled down and saw the detail he wanted everyone to see. A date. A venue tag, a wedding announcement, fast, lavish, public, a victory lap. My breath came shallow. My pulse throbbed in my throat. Adrian wasn't just moving on. He was trying to bury me under a celebration. He wanted the world to clap while I disappeared. I set my phone down on the table. The wood felt solid under my fingertips. My coffee smelled sharp and bitter. I opened my notebook. New page. I wrote the wedding date in slow, careful letters. Then I underlined it. My hand didn't shake this time. My body felt cold, but my mind was clear. If he wanted a stage, he could have one. And when the lights were brightest, when the room was full, when everyone was watching him smile like he owned the world, that's when the fog would lift. He came on a Tuesday. No warning, no courtesy, just his shadow through the glass on the front door like a stain that refused to lift. I opened it before my son could get curious, before little feet could patter into the hallway and collide with a scene I didn't want him to learn how to read. Adrian stood there with a cardboard box tucked under his arm as if he was doing a quick errand. As if this wasn't the remains of a marriage. As if I wasn't still learning how to breathe around the hole he carved out. His cologne hit me first. Clean, expensive, confident. It made my stomach tighten on instinct. My mouth went dry. "Hey," he said, like we were neighbors. Like he hadn't called me unstable in legal documents. I didn't answer, I just stepped aside. He walked in without hesitation, shoes on my rug, eyes scanning the living room as if it still belonged to him, like he was checking his inventory. The box was empty, of course it was. He wanted to fill it in front of me. He moved through the space with that old entitlement, opening a drawer here, tugging at a cabinet there. He didn't ask. He didn't explain. He just took. My hands stayed at my sides, fingers curled so tight my nails cut half moons into my palms. A slow burn spread up my arms, into my shoulders, into my jaw. I watched him reach for the shelf by the hallway, the one I dusted every week, the one I decorated with small pieces of our life. His hand hovered, then he picked up the tiny ceramic giraffe, the one with a chip in the ear, the one my son made in preschool, clay, clumsy and uneven, painted yellow with crooked brown spots. The teacher had wrapped it in tissue paper like it was precious. I'd cried when I unwrapped it because it smelled like paint and pride and the kind of innocence you want to bottle. Adrian turned it in his fingers like he was inspecting a paperweight. "Taking this," he said. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't inhale properly. The air caught high in my throat, thin and sharp. "That's not yours," I heard myself say. My voice didn't sound like me. It sounded like something scraped raw. He looked at me, eyebrows lifting slightly, amused. "It's our kids." "You don't get to—" I stopped myself. The words were trying to climb out too fast, too hot. He shrugged and dropped it into the box. The ceramic made a dull clink against cardboard. A small sound. A huge injury. I felt it behind my eyes immediately, that hot pressure, tears ready, humiliation ready, rage ready. My hands twitched like they wanted to snatch the box back, like they wanted to fling it against the wall and watch it explode. My heart hammered. My ears rang, my vision sharpened on his hands, those hands that used to cradle my face like it mattered. He kept moving. He opened the closet and pulled out a jacket I forgot he owned. He lifted a watch. He took a book he'd never read. He paused at the framed photo on the side table, my father holding my son, both of them smiling. His fingers touched the frame. My throat closed. "Don't," I said. He looked at me again, and I saw it, the little cruelty he carried like a coin in his pocket. He could spend it whenever he wanted. He lifted the frame anyway, studied it, then set it down with a soft tap. "Relax," he said. "I'm not taking your dead dad's photo." My stomach rolled, my hands went cold. "Leave," I whispered. He smiled, slow. "You're emotional." There it was again. The word, the label, the hook. He turned and walked toward the bedroom, and I followed. 2 steps behind, not to stop him, just to witness. To keep him from going into my son's room. To keep him from touching anything else that felt like mine. He stepped into the bedroom and opened the top drawer of the dresser. He pulled out a velvet pouch. My breath stopped. Inside that pouch was my mother's ring. Thin gold band, tiny sapphire, worn smooth from decades of use. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't valuable in the way he valued things. It was valuable in the way blood is. I'd kept it there because touching it calmed me. Because some nights I'd press it into my palm and remember my mother's hands, warm, hardworking, gentle before she was gone. Adrian opened the pouch and shook the ring into his hand. "Seriously?" My voice cracked. "That's my mother's." He rolled it between thumb and forefinger, eyes half-lidded like he was bored. "It was in the house," he said. "We're dividing property." "It's not property." He looked up, meeting my eyes, and something in his face went hard. "You don't get to decide that anymore," he said. My heartbeat slammed. My fingers twitched. I could feel adrenaline crawling through my veins like fire ants. My mouth flooded with saliva, my body preparing to scream, to fight, to bite. I took a step forward before I could stop myself. He watched me with a calm that made me want to break something. Then he smiled. "You'll thank me," he said softly, "when you realize you can't survive without me." The words hit me like a shove. My knees went weak for a second. Not because I believed him, but because he believed him. He believed he could take sentimental pieces of my life and I'd still fold into him like a paper crane. I tasted metal again, my tongue pressed against my teeth like it could hold the rage inside. For a heartbeat, I nearly snapped. I imagined grabbing the ring from his hand. I imagined slapping his face. I imagined screaming until the neighbors called the cops and he smiled at them like I was proving his point. My chest heaved. My skin prickled. Tears blurred my vision. Then I saw my son's backpack by the door, little dinosaur keychain swinging gently from the zipper, and I stopped. I didn't exhale. I didn't soften. I went still. Stillness isn't surrender. It's control. I looked at Adrian, really looked, and saw him for what he was, a man addicted to being needed. He wanted my reaction like he wanted oxygen, so I gave him none. Put it back, I said, voice low, even. No tremble, no plea. He blinked, surprised, like he expected begging. No, he said, and dropped the ring into his pocket. My stomach lurched. Heat flared behind my eyes, but my face stayed calm. My hands stayed at my sides. Fine, I said. He tilted his head. Fine. I nodded once. Fine. It wasn't fine. It was a promise. He picked up the box, walked past me, and paused at the doorway like he wanted one last jab. You know, he said, voice casual, I'm doing you a favor. You're going to see that eventually. I didn't answer. He left with the box and the ring and the giraffe and his smug certainty. The door clicked shut, and for a moment I stood there, staring at the empty air he left behind. Then my body betrayed me. My hands started shaking, violent, ugly tremors that ran up my arms. My stomach clenched so hard I bent slightly at the waist as if the pain could fold me into something smaller. I pressed my fist to my mouth. My breath came in sharp little pulls, like I'd been running. I wanted to collapse. I didn't. I walked to the kitchen. I opened a drawer. I took out my notebook. New page, date, time, items taken, ceramic giraffe, mom's ring, velvet pouch, his words. Exactly. You'll thank me when you realize you can't survive without me. I wrote it down until the ink looked like it could bite. That night, after my son fell asleep, the house changed. It wasn't loud. It didn't transform into a montage with dramatic music. It became quiet in a different way, the kind of quiet where plans grow teeth. I sat at the kitchen table with paperwork spread out like a battlefield. My coffee went cold beside me, a dark puddle that smelled bitter and stale. Highlighter ink stained the side of my hand neon yellow. My eyes burned from staring at documents too long, but I kept going. Every line I read felt like lifting a weight off my chest and setting it down somewhere else. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was learning to swim with knives in my pockets. I printed bank policies. I circled clauses. I underlined phrases that sounded harmless but were doors if you knew how to push them. Authorized user, spending limit modification, administrative revocation, triggering event. Each word was a stairstep. My son's soft breathing drifted from his room down the hall. Sometimes he shifted in his sleep. A small sigh. It steadied me more than any pep talk ever could. This wasn't about winning. It was about protecting the life he lived inside my arms. Evelyn came over again 2 days later. She didn't come with flowers or sympathy. She came with a slim folder and a face like stone. Mara, my family's accountant, joined us on speakerphone, her voice crisp and calm. I could hear papers shuffling on her end, a pen tapping once. Let's talk truth, Evelyn said. She laid out the structure like she was dismantling a machine. The cards you think are his? They're access tools, she said. He's an authorized spender, not the controlling authority, Mara added. The corporate expense accounts are designed to look personal. He uses them to maintain image, hotels, dinners, client meetings. But the approvals live elsewhere. I felt my pulse in my throat. Elsewhere, I repeated. In you, Evelyn said, eyes steady. My skin went cold, then hot, then cold again, like my body couldn't decide whether to panic or celebrate. Evelyn continued. Vendor lines, venue deposits, luxury services. He's stacking commitments based on the assumption he can swipe a card and make it real. That's not wealth. That's permission. permission. The word tasted like power when I said it silently. Mara's voice cut in again, sharp as a blade. He's spending like a self-made man, but his spending is supported by a structure he never owned. I leaned back in my chair, the wood pressing into my spine. My lungs felt too tight. Evelyn watched me carefully. "Do you want revenge?" she asked. "Or do you want freedom?" My mouth opened, and for a second I felt something surprising, a grief so heavy it made my ribs ache. Because there was a time I wanted him to regret it, a time I wanted him to come back on his knees, a time I wanted to see tears in his eyes and hear him say he was sorry, but that version of me was tired. She'd been trained to crave apologies. I didn't want him to feel sorry. I wanted him to see reality on a stage he built. "Both," I said. The words came out clean. In that order, Evelyn nodded, like she'd expected nothing less. She slid the folder across the table toward me. Inside was one page, a single document. The title at the top was blunt and terrifying in its simplicity. Authorization to revoke financial access on signing. My heartbeat stuttered. My mouth went dry. My fingertips tingled like the paper was hot. Evelyn's voice softened, just slightly. "This is legal," she said, "but it's serious. Once you sign, the permissions change, the spending stops, the illusion breaks." I stared at the document until the words blurred. In my mind, I saw Adrian's wedding post again, his grin, her ring, the date like a dagger. I imagined him standing in front of his investors and co-workers, everyone calling him self-made, everyone clapping at his new life, everyone swallowing the story he fed them. A dream wedding funded by a dream he never owned. My throat tightened. My eyes burned. I didn't reach for the pen yet. I just sat there, hands flat on the table, feeling my pulse hammer through my fingertips, because I understood something now. The divorce papers weren't the end. They were the trigger. And this single page, was the switch. The mediation room is too cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver either. The kind that creeps under your skin and settles in your bones like a warning. The air smells like stale coffee and printer toner, and the overhead lights buzz faintly, a thin, electric whine that drills into my skull if I focus on it too long. I keep my hands folded in my lap so no one sees how badly my fingers want to move. Adrian sits across from me like he's at a dinner reservation he's late for. Suit perfect, hair perfect, smile half-born, already waiting for applause. He doesn't look at me the way he used to, like I was a person he had to convince. He looks at me like paperwork. Serena isn't in the room. Of course she isn't. She's not the kind of woman who shows up for the mess. She shows up for the photos after. Evelyn sits beside me, calm and clean, her pen hovering above her legal pad like it's a weapon she knows how to aim. Across from us, Adrian's attorney flips through pages like he's shuffling cards before a game. The mediator clears his throat. The sound is small, but it still makes my pulse jump. "Let's review the terms," the mediator says. Adrian leans back, chair creaking. "It's straightforward," he says, like generosity is his hobby. "I'm not trying to drag this out." My stomach tightens so hard it almost feels like hunger. Straightforward. Right. Like a knife is straightforward. His attorney slides a stack of papers toward me. The pages whisper over the table, dry and impatient. My name is printed again and again in black ink. Each letter feels like a tiny chain. "No property claims," Adrian says, eyes on me now, bright with that smug, practiced pity. "You keep your little job. I'll be fair with support, considering." He tilts his head. "Considering your situation?" My throat closes. I taste metal. My tongue presses hard against my back teeth like it can keep my rage from spilling out. Evelyn's hand touches my wrist once. Not a squeeze, just pressure. A reminder, stay clean. I keep my face still. I read the terms. Minimal support, yes. Barely enough to keep my son's world stable without drowning me. No claim to the house. No claim to the investment accounts Adrian swore were his. No claim to the company. On paper, it looks like surrender. In my chest, my heart bangs once, hard, like it recognizes the trap setting into place. Adrian watches me the whole time, his eyes narrowed slightly as if he can't understand why I'm not crying. He wants tears. He wants shaking hands. He wants me to beg him not to do this. Instead, I lift my gaze and meet his. He smirks. "There," he says, voice low, like we're sharing a private joke. "See? This is better. You'll be fine." I don't answer. The mediator slides a pen toward me. It's heavier than it should be. Gold-toned, smooth. It looks like something that belongs on a desk in a corner office, not in my hand. My fingers wrap around it. The cool metal presses into my skin. My pulse thrums in my fingertips, loud enough I swear everyone can hear it. The room blurs at the edges for a second, like my body is trying to protect me from seeing what I'm about to do. Adrian's smile widens, his eyes soften in that false way he uses when he's about to win. "Go ahead," he says. "Sign. Let's move on." Move on, like I'm a coat he outgrew. I lower the pen to the paper. The scratch of ink is the loudest sound in the room. One stroke, two. My signature flows out of me like a vein opening. Not messy, not desperate, just final. The sound of the pen scraping the page is a countdown ticking to 0. When I lift the pen, my hand doesn't shake. Adrian exhales like he's been holding his breath for years. His shoulders loosen. He looks almost relieved. He takes the signed papers as if they're a prize. And I sit there, quiet, feeling something settle into my spine. Phase 1. Done. Outside the courthouse, the sun hits me like a slap. Warm, bright, uncaring. I blink hard. My eyes sting, not with tears this time, but with the strange burn of adrenaline fading. Evelyn walks beside me toward my car. Her heels click sharply on the pavement. Each click feels like a nail being hammered into a plan. "Are you sure?" she asks, voice low. My mouth is dry, my throat hurts from holding everything back. I nod. "Good," she says. "Then we do it the right way. Clean, documented, defensible." That night, after my son is asleep, I sit at my kitchen table again. Same chair, same table, different air. The house smells like dish soap and the lavender detergent I buy because it makes bedtime feel softer. A nightlight glows faintly down the hall, spilling a strip of warm light onto the carpet like a path. My laptop is open. The screen's blue-white light washes my face, makes me look ghostly in the dark window reflection. My coffee sits beside me, already going cold, but I sip it anyway. Bitter. Familiar. It steadies my hands. Evelyn's instructions are on a printed page in front of me. Mara is on the phone, speaker on, her voice calm, precise. "Log in," Mara says. I swallow, my throat clicking. I type. The keys click under my fingertips, sharp, clean sounds in the quiet kitchen. Each keystroke is a step. The login screen appears, my username, my password, a second authentication prompt. My phone buzzes with a code. My pulse jumps. My ears fill with the sound of blood moving. I enter the code. The account dashboard loads. Numbers appear, lines, layers, and there it is. Adrian's access profile, sitting in the system like he belongs there. "Don't rush," Evelyn says softly, standing behind me. I can smell her perfume, something dry, expensive, disciplined. We follow the sequence. My fingers hover over the trackpad. I feel the weight of what I'm about to do in my chest, like a stone pressed against my ribs. Part of me wants to hesitate. Part of me wants to stop and ask the universe for permission to be cruel. But this isn't cruelty. This is correction. I click. Access settings, user permissions, Adrian's name. For a second, my mind flashes back to him dropping my mother's ring into his pocket. To him calling me unstable. To him smiling while Serena called me the wrong name. The stone in my chest becomes something sharper. "Modify," Mara instructs. I click Modify. A menu opens. Options appear like doors. Disable cards. Reset spending limits. Remove token authorization. Restrict transfers. My stomach flips. My hands go cold. "Confirm this is the correct user profile," Evelyn says. I breathe in slowly. The air catches, then fills my lungs in a shaky rush. "Yes," I whisper. I select the first option. Disable all linked cards. A small checkbox fills with a checkmark. I select the second. Reset spending limit to 0. Another check. The third. Remove transfer privileges. Check. The screen pauses, then a warning pops up. This action will restrict the user's ability to conduct financial activity. My throat tightens, my heartbeat hammers in my ears. My finger hovers over the confirm button. There's a moment, a thin, trembling moment, where guilt rises in me like heat. A memory of Adrian holding our newborn, eyes wet, whispering promises into tiny ears. Then, another memory slams into it. Adrian saying, "You don't even know how the money works. I don't want him to hurt. I want him to stop. I want him to be unable to buy his way out of consequences." I press confirm. The click is quiet, but inside me something detonates without sound. The screen spins for a second. A little loading circle, calm and indifferent, then permissions successfully updated. I stare at those words until my vision blurs. My lungs release a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It comes out shaky, almost a sob, but not quite. "Good," Mara says. "Now we wait for processing. Compliance may lag." Of course, it might. The system isn't built for vengeance, it's built for procedure, and procedure is my shield. The next day, my phone buzzes with the first ripple, a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It calls again. I answer on the third ring, my voice neutral. "Hello." A man speaks, careful and stiff. "This is Roland from..." He names a bank. "We noticed recent administrative changes. We need to confirm." "I'll have my attorney contact you," I say, and my voice doesn't shake. Silence. Then, "Yes, ma'am." I hang up and my hands tremble anyway, just slightly. My stomach twists, not fear, power. It's a strange sensation, like holding a live wire without getting burned. Later, another call comes. This time, from Adrian's assistant. Her voice is tight, rushed. "Mara, can I call you Mara?" Adrian is in a meeting and there's an issue with some corporate cards. A vendor is saying the transaction didn't go through. I can hear the panic beneath her professionalism, like a trembling animal trying to stay upright. "I'm not sure," I say, soft. "I'm no longer involved in his accounts." A beat of silence. Then her voice goes sharper. "Do you know what's happening?" I glance at the screen of my phone. My hand is steady now. "No," I say. "But I'm sure he'll figure it out. He understands how the money works." I hang up before she can answer. My stomach flips, my mouth goes dry. I stand at the sink and stare out the window for a long time, watching a bird hop along the fence. My hands shake as I rinse a cup that doesn't need rinsing. My heart is loud. I'm not celebrating, not yet. Then Serena tries to move money. I don't see her fingers on a keyboard. I don't see her glossy nails tapping a phone screen. But I see the notification. An attempted transfer request flagged and denied. A second attempt. Denied. I imagine her face tightening, that smile cracking at the edges. I imagine her turning to Adrian with that sweet voice sharpened into a blade. Why isn't this working? By the third day, Evelyn sends controlled messages to vendors. Short, professional. Payment verified on event day per policy. No drama, no threats, just policy. We let the wedding proceed in planning because the truth needs witnesses. It needs a room full of people who once believed Adrian's story. It needs the lights, the cameras, the applause that will curdle into silence. At night, guilt tries to crawl back in. It comes in flashes. When my son laughs at a silly cartoon, when he climbs into my lap and smells like soap and sleep. It whispers, "Is this too much?" Then I remember Adrian's voice in that bedroom, soft and cruel. "You'll thank me when you realize you can't survive without me." I remember Serena in the school gym, calling me Ariana with a smile. I remember the legal papers calling me unstable, and my guilt turns into something harder, dignity. I choose it again and again. No screaming, no public scenes, no messy revenge that splashes back onto my child. Just the quiet removal of an illusion. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, I discover the twist that makes my blood go cold. It's in an email thread Evelyn pulls during discovery, a string of messages Adrian didn't know existed outside his control. Serena's name is there, woven through it like poison. She isn't just the other woman. She's been pushing him. Cut her off completely. Make sure she can't contact your investors. If she gets desperate, she'll look crazy. Get full decision-making. If she's unstable, You can limit her access to him. Access to him. My son. The words make my vision narrow. My ears ring. My hands go numb, then hot, then numb again. I grip the edge of the table until it bites into my skin. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. They weren't just leaving me. They were trying to isolate me from my child. My throat tightens so hard I can barely swallow. My stomach rolls. I taste metal again, sharp and bitter like my body is chewing on nails. I don't cry, I don't scream, I sit very still and feel something ancient rise inside me, something that doesn't bargain. A mother. The night before the wedding, the call comes. It's late. The house is dark, my son is asleep, his door cracked open, a strip of warm light spilling out. I'm sitting on the couch with my notebook on my lap, pen resting against my thumb like a pulse. My phone rings. Adrian's name lights up the screen. For a second, I just stare at it. My heart thuds slow and heavy, like a drum in a funeral march. I answer. Hello? My voice comes out calm, almost soft. There's silence on the other end, just breathing, ragged, uneven. Then Adrian speaks, and the sound of his voice is wrong, small, shaky, like the ground under him finally moved. Mara, he says, and my name sounds strange in his mouth now. Why is everything declining? The day of the wedding tastes like winter air, cold and clean and sharp enough to sting the inside of my nose when I breathe in. I sit in the backseat of the car with my hands folded over my lap, fingers tucked under my palms so I won't pick at my skin the way I do when my nerves are too loud. Outside the window, the city slides by in glossy fragments, glass buildings, bare trees, a blur of brake lights, like the world is trying to pretend this is just another Saturday. It isn't. My dress is simple, dark, no glitter, no show. The fabric lies flat against my body like armor. I don't wear the necklace Adrian once bought me to prove he appreciated me. I don't wear anything that belonged to him. I wear myself. When the car stops, I can already hear the music through the venue doors. A string quartet, bright and delicate, as if they're playing for a dream. The notes float into the air and die against the cold when the doors open and I step out. The entrance smells like flowers and money, roses, peonies, something sweet and heavy that clings to the back of my throat. The lobby glows under chandeliers that look like frozen waterfalls. Camera flashes flicker in bursts. People laugh in the careful, polished way rich rooms laugh, loud enough to be heard, soft enough to be tasteful. Every guest looks like a headline. Tailored suits, silk dresses, watches that catch the light when they lift a champagne glass. I can feel eyes slide toward me like fingertips, curious and sharp, trying to decide if I'm a ghost or a mistake. I keep my chin level. My heels click on marble, each step measured, not fast, not hesitant. I don't arrive to beg. I arrive to end the lie. Inside the ballroom, the lights are low and warm, tiny points above like stars pinned to the ceiling. The aisle is lined with candles in glass cylinders, their flames steady and calm. A white arch blooms with flowers at the front, so bright it almost hurts to look at. The whole room is staged like a miracle. Adrian stands near the altar, laughing with a group of men I recognize from business articles. Investors, board members, people who once shook his hand and called him self-made like it was holy. He wears the kind of tuxedo that looks like it grew on him. His hair is perfect, his smile is perfect, his eyes scan the room and catch mine. For a fraction of a second, the smile falters. Then he forces it back into place like a mask tightening. He turns away as if I'm nothing. Fine. Nothing is what I came to show him. I slip toward the side, near the aisle, not sitting with the guests, not hiding behind pillars. I take a place where I can see everything, where I can be seen when it matters. My pulse is steady in my throat, a slow drum. I notice the small things first, a coordinator walking too fast, her headset pressed tight to her ear, the way her mouth moves without sound, lips pulled thin with panic. A waiter pausing, then pivoting sharply as if he's been rerouted. A man in a suit, venue manager, checking a tablet with a frown that deepens by the second. Then Adrian's phone starts buzzing. Once, twice, again. He glances at it, laugh still on his face like he can charm the screen into behaving. He taps something. His jaw tightens. He pockets it again, shoulders squaring. He keeps talking, keeps smiling, keeps pretending the ground isn't shifting under his polished shoes. The guests begin to settle. Chairs scrape. The string quartet changes to a softer piece, romantic, slow. The officiant steps up and adjusts the microphone. Serena appears at the far end of the aisle in white, so bright it looks unreal, like she wants to blind everyone into believing her purity. The room turns toward her. Adrian's face lights up. Too bright. Too practiced. He's still playing the part. Serena walks down the aisle like she's floating. Her veil catches the light like frost. Her smile is wide and shining, and for a second, if I didn't know better, I might think she's happy, but her eyes flick to Adrian's hands, to his phone, to the way his fingers keep clenching and unclenching like he's trying to strangle air. She's clocking it. Good. The officiant begins. Words about love, commitment, forever, the kind of words people clap for because they're safe. Adrian nods at the right moments. Serena beams at the right moments. But the coordinator is now standing near the front, whispering urgently to the venue manager. The manager's face is stiff. He's shaking his head. Adrian's phone buzzes again. He glances down, and I see it, just for a flash, panic smear across his eyes like wet ink. He laughs too loud, says something to the man beside him, and the man laughs too, unsure, like he's being asked to cover for something he doesn't understand. Then the officiant pauses mid-sentence. It's subtle, a hesitation. But in a room this polished, a pause is a scream. The officiant leans slightly toward Adrian, microphone still live, but his voice lowered. I can't hear the words, but I see Adrian's posture change. His shoulders tightening, his chin lifting defensively, his smile cracking at the edges. The venue manager steps closer. Adrian's laugh dies. The string quartet continues for a few seconds, then falters when someone gestures sharply. The music stops. Not a fade. A cut. Silence drops into the ballroom like a heavy curtain. My skin prickles from scalp to spine. Every hair on my arms rises, my throat tightens, and for a second I taste metal again, like my body is bracing for impact. Adrian looks around, eyes darting, trying to catch control by looking like he has it. Serena's smile freezes, her cheeks still lifted, but the muscles around her eyes tightening with confusion. The venue manager says something, voice low. Adrian's lips part, then press together. He shakes his head once, quick. Denied, denied, denied. I can feel it without seeing the screen. He turns slightly, leaning in toward Serena. This is a glitch, he whispers, but his voice carries in the quiet, too thin, too desperate. Serena's eyes widen. What do you mean a glitch? She hisses, still smiling because cameras are still pointed at her. Adrian doesn't answer. His gaze sweeps the room again and lands on me. This time, he sees me, really sees me. I don't move. I don't blink. I let him look. Because he needs to understand I'm not here by accident. The lights dim slightly, and the projector behind the altar flickers to life. Everyone expects the romantic slideshow, the photos, the music swelling back up. The screen flashes white, then not pictures, not love. A clean, stark presentation. Boxes, lines, names, entities, a structure. The kind of diagram that makes people in expensive suits sit up straighter because it speaks their language. A ripple moves through the crowd. Whispers, small gasps, the quick shuffle of phones being lifted, not for selfies now, but for proof. The venue manager steps back as if he doesn't want to be near the blast. And then Evelyn's ally walks to the microphone. Not Evelyn herself. She stays back, quiet, watching, letting the facts do their work. It's Mara, my family's accountant, dressed in a conservative suit, hair pulled back, face calm like a locked door. She stands at the front with the kind of stillness that makes the whole room feel less safe to lie in. She taps the microphone once. The sound pops. Adrian flinches. This is not an interruption, Mara says, voice even, carrying to every corner. This is a clarification of authority. The words land like ice water. Adrian's mouth opens. What? He swallows. What is this? Serena's eyes flick between the screen and Adrian, her smile now fully broken, hanging off her face like something torn. Mara gestures to the screen, her hand steady. At the top, she says, is the controlling trust and its governance board. Her finger traces the line, slow, deliberate. My name appears, not as an accessory, not as a footnote, as the foundation. I feel my lungs seize not from fear but from the strange pain of being seen after being erased for so long. My eyes sting. My jaw trembles once and I clamp it down. I will not cry here. Not because crying is weak, because crying is for rooms where I'm safe. This room was built for him. So I will stand in it, dry-eyed. Adrian steps forward, face flushing. "This is my company," he says, voice too loud, too sharp. His hands lift, palms out, like he can push the truth away physically. Mara doesn't react, she doesn't smile, she doesn't sneer. She just says, "You managed it, you never owned it." The words slice through the air so cleanly it feels like everyone stops breathing at once. A man in the front row, one of the investors, covers his mouth with his hand, eyes fixed on the screen like he's watching a car crash in slow motion. Another man whispers into his phone, already moving away from his seat. Serena turns on Adrian, voice trembling with fury. "You told me you were in control." Her words are sharp, but under them is terror, because she didn't just marry a man. She married an image, and images don't pay bills. Adrian snaps his head toward her, eyes wild. "Not now," he spits. "Not now." Like she's a nuisance, not the bride. Like everyone in this room is just another problem to manage. The room turns colder. I step forward. The aisle feels longer than it did when Serena walked it. Every candle flame seems to flicker as I pass, the heat kissing my skin, the smell of wax mixing with roses and panic. My heart pounds, but my voice, when it comes, doesn't shake. "You divorced me like I was a burden," I say, and the words taste like iron and relief, like I was something you could drop and replace. Adrian's face twists, a pleading look trying to form, trying to reach for the version of me that used to soften. I don't give it to him. "But I was the foundation," I continue, my throat tight but steady, and foundations don't beg the house for permission to stand. Silence swells again, thick and heavy. I don't insult him. I don't call him names. I don't throw Serena's betrayal back in her face. I don't need to. The facts are doing what my anger would have ruined. The venue manager clears his throat, stepping forward, voice formal. "Without verified payment authorization, we cannot proceed." Serena lets out a strangled sound, half gasp, half sob. Her hand flies to her mouth, smearing lipstick. Adrian spins, frantic. This is a misunderstanding. I can fix it." He pulls out his phone, thumbs moving too fast, too desperate. The screen reflects in his eyes, little flashes of light like drowning signals. Declined, declined, declined. The whispers turn into movement. Investors stand, buttoning jackets, guests glance at each other, then at Adrian, then away like they don't want to be caught looking at a man whose story just collapsed. People leave quietly, not out of respect, but out of self-preservation. Reputation is a scent in rooms like this. They don't want it on them. Cameras keep clicking, but the mood has changed. This isn't romance. It's exposure. Serena's face hardens. She looks at Adrian like he's a trap she stepped into. Like she suddenly understands she didn't win him from me. She inherited him. Her voice drops, venomous. "So what am I supposed to do now?" Adrian doesn't answer. He can't. He's too busy trying to hold together a world that was built on my silence. And then he turns to me. He steps down from the altar area, weaving through the mess with a kind of desperate grace. His eyes are glassy, his mouth trembles at the edges. "Mara," he says, softer now. "Please, can we talk? Privately, just for a second." The old habit kicks in, his hand reaching for mine like it always did when he wanted to anchor me back to him. His fingers stretch out, confident, assuming I'll let him. His hand almost touches mine. I step back. It's small, just one step, but it's a cliff. His fingers close on empty air. His face crumples for half a second, shock flickering through him, like he can't believe I didn't automatically return to my place. "We're done," I say. My voice is quiet, final. I turn away from him as the room behind me breaks into scattered chaos. Coordinators whispering, guests filing out, Serena standing frozen in white, like a statue of regret. As I walk down the aisle, the candles blur into a trail of soft light. My throat loosens slightly, my lungs finally take a full breath. The taste of metal fades. And for the first time in what feels like years, the air in my mouth tastes like something close to freedom. The doors close behind me, and the cold night hits my face like water. My lungs drag it in too fast. It burns. It feels clean. My hands are still trembling, not from fear. My body just doesn't know what to do with the adrenaline now that the fight is over. The parking lot lights smear into soft halos through the wet shine in my eyes. I blink hard, but the tears come anyway, silent and stubborn. Relief tastes strange, like salt and metal and something almost sweet underneath. But grief is there too, curled in my chest like a small animal, because justice still hurts, because a part of me is still standing in that kitchen years ago, believing love meant shrinking. I sit in the car for a minute with my forehead against the steering wheel, breathing until my heartbeat stops trying to punch its way out of me. Then, I drive home. The house is quiet. My son is asleep exactly the way he always is. One arm flung out, mouth slightly open, hair stuck up in a soft mess. I stand in his doorway and let the sight of him pull me back into my body. The tightness in my ribs loosens. My jaw unclenches, and it lands heavy and clear. Revenge wasn't the point. Safety was. The real win wasn't his embarrassment in front of people who never really mattered. It was me learning to say no without shaking. It was boundaries that didn't bend. It was stability I built with my own hands. It was my voice, steady, finally, because it belonged to me. After that, life doesn't turn magical overnight. It turns practical, a new custody routine, morning drop-offs that don't make me nauseous, paperwork, therapy that cracks me open in quiet rooms and helps me stitch myself back together, work that becomes more than survival, something solid, something mine. And Adrian? His consequences find him without me chasing. Meetings get canceled, calls stop getting returned, the story he sold people starts costing him. That's the thing about lies. Eventually, they invoice you. If you've ever been underestimated, tell me, what did you do next?